Welcome to the Coda podcast. I am Roo from Roo Films, and today I'll be speaking with Alex from Molehill Media. It's rare to find a wedding filmmaker who's doing something truly different, but that's exactly what Alex is doing. He describes his style as marmite, drawing inspiration from romcom teasers and reality TV rather than traditional wedding filmmaking. In this conversation, we dive into his unique approach, how he discreetly mics up couples for the entire day using hidden lavs, why spontaneous guest interviews add a new layer of depth to a couple's story, and the process of shaping over 1 terabyte of footage and audio into a Netflix-style documentary film. So, Alex, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, mate. It's such an honour to have you on.
Honestly, thank you for having me. I feel really privileged and a bit surreal that you've asked me, actually, because so the massive names you've had on here, I feel a little bit insignificant, but it's all good. I'm really chuffed to be here.
Not at all, man. This is the thing, right? Where do I start with you, Alex? Because to sit a bit behind the scenes of the podcast, quite often with the people I have on, I kind of know the answers they're going to give to certain things. I really know how they work, but I'm asking the questions because I know it's valuable information that I want the listeners to have. But with your work, I have no idea how you manage it, mate. I have no idea how you put together your films. And what I think I'll do here is I'm going to actually play, for the benefit just of our listeners, one of your highlight films, the intro to one of your films. Even though majority of people listen to this audio only, I think just from the audio basis of it, they can get a feel for how you put these masterpieces together. It's absolutely crazy. So we're going to play that right now.
Previously on Webstock.
Tomorrow's the day that we have our big celebration. We've got friends and family coming, so it's just excitement.
It's been good, pretty chill. Everyone's done their bit, and not many dramas, apart from a couple, which were hell. Never good, it's fine, yeah.
It's a thingamabob, not to be confused with a whatsamajig.
Insanity. There is going to be so much insanity happening.
We've got stilt walkers,
Fire breathers.
we've got a cocktail competition,
A tuk-tuk driving around.
magicians,
Blaring tunes.
a ceremony. All of these things are more to create an atmosphere of just pure euphoria and joy.
So there we go. There's the intro to one of your films. I guess we'll do the quickfire questions that I normally do, even though I'm just so eager to start going into the technicalities of this all. But how many weddings do you shoot each year on average?
Last year was my first full year, and I was really lucky. I did 33 last year in my first year, and then this year's 34. I think ultimately that's a great number to do, and I'm really, really happy that I've got that so quickly. But considering the style, I think maybe 2026 I'm going to start bringing those numbers down a little bit. But 34 is what I've got this year.
It blows my mind that you've only been going for that short period of time, and to have such a distinct style and such technical prowess as well. But I guess we'll go into how that's happened. What are the packages that you're offering at the moment?
Okay, so I mean, it is going to change. It's always changing.
Yeah.
It's always up and down with me. I'm quite scatty. So at the moment, I do 3 packages. The first one is 2,150, and you just get a film and a teaser, not necessarily like the trailers you see on my Instagram, just a teaser for that. The second one, as we know, like the second packages are what you really want your couples to go for. That goes for 2,550, and that includes a full film, the trailers that you see on my Instagram, full ceremony and speeches, and drone footage. And then sort of like the all-in package at the top is 3,250, which is everything from the second package, but it includes a second videographer, friends and family messages, which are like video guest book messages, the full first dance, and the FOMO edit, which is, as we know, like shoving all the clips you do in the day, cutting out all the rubbish, and giving them everything, really. But that's likely to go up. It might come down a bit. I mean, I started at the beginning of last year doing one package for 1,350, and now I'm up at that price. So it's ever changing.
Yeah, but clearly your films, they are not easy to put together, and there's no way of almost doing a template for them either, I can imagine. So you have to be pricing your packages for the time you're going to have to put into them, because doing 30 odd weddings a year is a lot, isn't it, right, in terms of like workload? So I guess you're going through that journey right now of working out what you can manage, what you can cope with, and then what you need to price, I guess.
Also on the day as well, it's like I really feel like a second videographer is a necessity for the style if you want the most out of me. But couples don't necessarily see the value in it until they realize what they missed. Do you know what I mean? So, things like that I really have to try and sell. And I do, honestly. As in terms of like how much editing goes into the back end, different films take a different amount of time. It depends how much content there is on the day. And there is no template, and I work very much off of inspiration of the moment and instinct. So one wedding film can take me 3 days, one wedding film can take me 3 weeks. It really does juggle. So I don't know how much to price, if I'm being totally honest. I feel that because I don't necessarily want to head into the luxury market at this moment in time, nor do I have the connections or anything like that, I feel like 2,550 is what I'm worth at the moment until I build more of a reputation, get my work out there a little bit more. And if I am losing out on money compared to the editing hours, then we just keep working. We just keep working and move up them prices,
Yeah, and that's the journey, isn't it, that we all go on. And like, but I'm watching watching your edits, and I'm thinking I'm like, how the time and effort you must put in, because it's we will go into that more. I'm losing my mind a little bit here, man, and that's why I was saying when I desperately got out in touch with you after I watched your films the first time, I was like, wow, look at this, this is insane. Really, and then to find out you've only been doing it a year, for what you're going to achieve over this next year, I can't even imagine. So glad we got you on early doors, mate, to pick your brain. So let's go into the gear, because I love to do that.
Yep.
And actually, going back to your packages, what are the length of your films generally? So your teasers are usually around about a minute long, right? That we see. They're very dramatic, high energy teasers that you put together. And then what are your film lengths?
A teaser for the first package will just be like a minute long of a nice bit of speech and some slow motion footage over the top of it. That's for the lowest package. When you start getting into the trailers that you see on Instagram or on my website, they're usually about 2 minutes long, and I model them off of sort of romcom trailers, really. I mean, it depends on the couple, it depends on what's happened during the day, but I feel like I want to hit that sort of rom-com trailer feel for them. In terms of like the full films, again, it really depends on how much content there was from the day. I don't feel like a 30-minute film is going to be as entertaining as a 15-minute film. But if there's that amount of content there that it means it's going to be 20, 25 minutes, I'll do it. There's no extra charge for extra minutes. I just want to squeeze that lemon as much as possible, without it becoming not entertaining anymore. So I tell the couples it's normally about 12 to 15 minutes for a full film, but occasionally it might sort of squeeze onto the 20-minute margin, and you're over delivering then, and you can't lose, can you? So
yeah, exactly. And 20 minutes, like that number in my head, I'm like, good Lord, like, I don't know if I'd want to sit through that. But earlier I watched one of your films, and it was Ben and Lee. That's right, isn't it? They like kind of had like a festival themed wedding, and that's 20 odd minutes long. And I thought I'll just watch a little bit of this, just to get a feel for the work that, I've seen a lot of your work, but I wanted to, get a feel for a longer film. I sat through that entire thing. I could not look away from it. It was just so well paced, so well put together, and just massively intriguing. And there were parts of it where I was honestly in tears. Like there's the way you kind of drive the story. And it's they're a high energy couple, aren't they? The bride is very high energy and a good laugh, and all that is coming through. And then it drops into those sentimental moments, and it absolutely floored me. And then it brings you back up again, and you really. Although I always tell my couples that my films, I want to hit all the emotional moments of the day and take you on that journey. Mm-hmm. I don't do it as well as you. I don't think I've met anyone who does that as well as you do. It's like
bless you, man. Truly
taking you through that, and that's. And one of the things that is insane is your audio capture. So before we even talk about cameras, I want to know about your audio, because it's just insane. So I'm assuming, because you have so much natural dialogue in there, I'm assuming you've got people laved up all over the place and you're using time code. Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So I use timecode. We'll get into cameras, but I've got 4 cameras. I usually use 3, 4 as backup, just in case I really need it. And they've all got timecode generators on them. And all my lav mics are timecode enabled. And it just means that I can microphone people and it's constantly synced to the timeline.
Yeah.
So I can be filming from 15 feet away, 20 feet away on my long lenses, looking at a conversation that the bride or groom are having to whoever. And I don't know in the moment how important that conversation will be until I go back into the edit. But I've caught some incredible stuff of things that I know in the future, this is going to be so important for them to watch back. It's a fleeting moment on the day that they may forget or long to watch again. So it's amazing. So I use Tentacle trackies for the lavs. I only really lav up for the entire day the bride and groom.
Yeah.
I used to do best man and maid of honor, but I found I wasn't getting as much value as I thought I would out of that. So unless they're an extremely either sentimental or over the top groomsman or bridesmaid, then you can catch a lot off of just whoever's standing next to the bride and groom, you know. And technology is really good with noise reduction and everything like that now, that you can tweak things so you can make it sound a little bit better in post than it does straight out the microphone. But generally it's just the bride and groom that are microphoned, and I find that's the real sweet spot because they are the center of everything and everything's coming to them, you know.
I can't even see the lav on them because I'm a nerd for that. I like to look at I did notice a cheeky TX650 on a microphone at one point. I thought, but that's clearly your backup. We'll
go into the, because I know you've got a love affair with these TX660s and 650s. I've heard enough of these podcasts now to know that you need to be sponsored.
But no, we're ending that for this one because there is no way you can achieve what you achieve with anything other than the mics you're using, lavs that you can hide, lavs with time code. So talk me through specifically laving up the bride. I think like how's that work out practically?
Yeah, so the groom's pretty simple. You put the lav between his shirt buttons there, run it down to his belt buckle, and it hooks onto the back of his belt. So I'm actually going to try next year strapping across his chest so you don't get the pack on the back for the photos and video. But we'll see how that works out. Come back to me in a year's time to see if that one worked out or not. In terms of the bride, it does depend. I did doing 33 weddings last year. I would say it didn't work with maybe 4 dresses out of them 33. And that's either because they've got a slit down the dress or it's too tight. And the last thing I want to do is take away the aesthetic of their wedding dress. Yeah. But the way it works is before they've put it on, I use a sticky to put it in the bra cup, the actual lav mic, and I run it all the way down, hopefully down the seam, down to a leg strap.
How do you do that as a male?
With the leg strap, I really just gauge the sort of the relationship I've built with them. I always tell them in my consultation calls, you're going to have a leg strap on. If you want me to do it for safety reasons, I'm happy to do it. I come from a theatre background. I've done enough of like dressing rooms and all this stuff that I've got no shame anymore. But if you want a bridesmaid to do it equally, that's absolutely fine. You know, it's not rocket science. It's putting a strap around your leg tight enough that it's not going to fall down the middle of the aisle, and making sure it's screwed in as properly as possible.
Is it the Ursa leg straps that you're using?
Yeah. And I've got multiple sizes because sometimes I prefer to go around the calf. Sometimes I like to go around the top of the thigh. You know, it just depends on what works in the moment. In terms of like, it's a great way of doing it, honestly. And what it enables me also to do is I'm a big stickler for having backup after backup after backup. And if the groom's microphone's as standard and his microphone happens to go down, you've got another backup there with the bride, right? Yeah. She's always standing right next to him. And it's the same with the officiant. You know, sometimes if they're really good officiants, when they actually do their vows, they get out of the way. Yeah. So I can't even use their microphones if his microphone went down. So it's just about really ensuring yourself, as well as the most amazing moments that I'm able to capture. you know,
Yeah.
which other videographers, because they're not using time code, because it's not, they're not laving people up all day. I'm capturing really unique moments to the couple, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it shines through. It's phenomenal. The other thing I couldn't understand, the audio is so clear with no rubbing. How are you, especially with the bride, when it's kind of hidden in a bra cup, how are you making sure there's no rubbing or rubbing noises?
I usually use sort of like the foamies, or I have some, for certain microphones, I've got like mounts for them. I'll tell you straight, sometimes I can't use a bit of audio because there is a bit of rubbing. It depends on the material, it depends on how she's moving. You know, there's often, you know, they get a bit jittery during their vows, and sometimes she might be saying something, she might just sort of like brush her hair or something and it scrapes up against the microphone. It is what it is. It's a live event, and you know, as I say, I've got a microphone right near her with the groom, and you're able to sort of switch between the two if there is that much rubbing, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. And on the groom, you said you put it in between his buttons. So is that that's stuck and hidden behind in the what do you call that bit? Like the flap between the buttons, right? That's what it is. Yeah,
I'm not going to say I'm fiddling with this flap anytime soon. I'll tell you that. Like, I just say it's going between the buttons in your shirt, so it's hidden by your tie. You know that. You call it the flap all you like, my friend. Sometimes I actually want to experiment if they haven't got a hairy chest, actually sticking to the chest. You know, because I think that is a more optimum place to put it, because there's not as much material, you know, if they're fiddling with their tie there or something, it's a little bit more, you know, I think it would work better. But again, come back to me in a year's time and I'll let you know if that was a good idea or a bad idea. Yeah.
See, this is the thing, isn't it, Alex? Like, kind of, you watch your work and it looks like you've been doing this for decades. But the fact it's quite new for you and you're learning as you go, it's like, this is insane. So who knows what's going to happen?
It's why I sort of said to you, like when you asked me to come on the podcast, that maybe you should wait a little bit while, because I feel like I don't have a clue in what I'm doing, to be quite honest. But with every wedding, you learn something. Do you know what I mean? So maybe 33 might have been too many last year for my work-life balance or whatever, but that was 33 opportunities to learn something new each wedding. And the same with the 34 this year. I feel like I can walk into a wedding and deliver my style confidently, and I can only improve on the sort of building blocks that's been built by making lots of mistakes, to be honest, mate. Like, you know, as we all do.
Yeah. That's how it's done. But when you said about that, but you wanted to wait until you had more experience, I was thinking, no, I want you now. I want to know how the start of that. For me, it's so much more interesting when people are starting out and they're finding their way, because I feel the longer you've been in something, the more stuck in your ways you are, and you don't want to change. Whereas when you're fresh and new, you're open to everything. And that's when the real kind of creativity comes in. Before you've been told by certain people, you got to do things this way, you learn your own route. And there's obviously no mistake that you're blazing your own trail, and that it's awesome to see. Battery life on those lavs then, do they last all day, or do you have to like do a changeover at some point?
No, they last long enough. If I switch them on at around 10 o'clock, they'll be done by maybe 8. And I don't need them past the speeches, really. Sometimes I keep them on for maybe the first dance or when the evening guests are coming on. But by then you've got a lot of loud music. There's not much you can do with it. Yeah. Sometimes it's a hard work to get them off the bride, if I'm being totally honest. I've had to chase them around at 11 at night. But, you know, it is what it is.
Because that's the hardest bit on a wedding day, is when you have to go and find them and say goodbye. It's dead awkward. But then to not only have to do that, but have to like take a leg strap off.
Well, that's it. But they don't care at that point. They've had a drink and they're like got their dress up and they've got their leg strap out, and then everyone's going, whoa, what's that? And she goes, I've been microphoned all day, baby. You know, like, you know, it is quite rewarding because I know what that will do for them, and I know what that will possibly give them in the edit. And it's priceless sort of unique moments to them, moments that they will be really thankful that they got. And if they didn't get them, they'd long for them in the future, you know?
Yeah. And this is perhaps skipping ahead because we are going to go into your editing process, but I need to know this answer now. With time code, right, how on earth are you linking all your B-roll to the time code? How does that process work?
So every camera's got time code on it. So I use a main camera, and then I've got a B camera for the ceremony and speeches, and a C camera for the ceremony and speeches, and occasionally I'll have one on my hip just to like quick fire shoot reactions or whatever. But they're all timecode generated, so all I do is pop them in different folders into DaVinci, highlight all the clips, select a stem, you know, a timeline, and go sync to time code, and they all sync together.
Right.
So
all on a
it's just
all on a
click of
timeline, or
all on a timeline. Yeah, all on a timeline. So I have the 12, 13 hour day just running from start to finish, the whole day on a timeline from the moment that I first record something. So it's really easy. It's time consuming, don't get me wrong, but to go to a part of the day where I know they were having a conversation with this person, I know I'm editing this part of the day, let's have a look if there was anything really genuine. Or like at Ben and Lee's, you know, I knew that she was having a conversation with her stepdad and her mum at the top of the aisle.
yeah,
She was taking a long time to come down that aisle and she was getting really emotional. So I just skimmed to that part, got her microphone up, looked at that camera. It's already synced together. I didn't have to do anything waveform syncing. It's already there because of the time code. And I heard her say things like, when I hit me, it was her father-in-law, her stepdad that's going, you'll be all right. Look at Ben. He's here and he loves you and all this sort of stuff. And these are things that are so precious. Yeah. And it's all because of time code. You know,
that was a bit that really stood out to me in that film, because you're at the front, you've got kind of the groom Ben in frame off to the left slightly a little bit, but then you're focusing on her at the top of the aisle, and you can see she is physically kind of shaking a little bit, isn't she? Yeah. And you're hearing her audio, like you said, you hear the tremble in her voice. She's so nervous, and it's like kind of getting herself ready to go. And I was like, wow, I have never seen anything like that in a wedding film. It was, and then you got the payoff of him turning around to see, oh gosh. Yeah. And you play with the music with them moments as well. You want to sort of bring the music down to really let that shine through, and then bring it back up for when she's walking down the aisle. You know, it all comes together, but it takes a bit in the edit to sort of work out what's right and what's not, and how you can make that together to give those, like you said at the beginning, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. That's what interesting films that me and you love. And how, I don't know if you want to say reality TV or entertainment TV, you can't have a film that's on one level. It's boring as anything. So you need to start it high, bring it down, you know, bring it back up again, bring it back down again, and then finish off with the payoff with the big bang at the end. And the moments like that allow me to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like finding those really intimate moments allow me to sort of let the moment breathe and let the sentiment play out, you know? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's just amazing. So generating time code. I'm still on it. I'm still on time code.
Yeah. All right, go for it.
So I get it to a certain extent. So the lavs device is running a time that then syncs up to the cameras that are running at the same time. How does you get the? I get it that it'll work how it works on the lav, because that's just generating it on there. How is it getting generated on the cameras?
So they're all plugged in. So they all either it depends on the camera. The FX3s and the Sony A7S3, you can plug them through the mini USB port, and it will run constantly in there. Yeah. For something like a ZV-E1, you have to run it through the audio channel. So you can't have an external microphone or anything like that. It will go through the audio channel, and that is how you get your time code from it. So it just constantly pumps the time code through the camera. It never stops. You never want the time code generator to run out of battery, but they go for like 42 hours or something ridiculous like that. You never want it to unplug and then start filming, because that'll be out of sync. So you want to make sure you take care of it, keep the wires in check, and everything, and it will just run the time code all synced together at the beginning of the day. Basically, I think this is what you're asking me. You get a master time code generator, and you sync every time code generator and every lav to that one, so they're all the same. They run exactly the same. You've got to make sure that all the cameras run the same frames per second. Otherwise it won't sync up properly. But they run from that master, and then you sort of keep that on the cameras, and they roll and roll and roll and roll, and it makes your life so easy.
Right. So is it like...
No, it's a bit of an expense.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, but I'm about to spend some money, I think, mate. But does it clip onto like the hot shoe kind of thing? Is that where it like stores, and then the wire
they come with like hot shoes, or they've got Velcro on them, and so you can put it on whatever. You know, I've tagged them onto anything, whether it be top handles or the hot shoe or whatever. It's easy. You know, it comes with lots of adapters, so it makes it very, very easy for you.
And you're saying, so on your main camera, can you run as though you've got the time code running as well, but can you also be capturing on camera audio as well at the same time?
Because I've got the Sony FX3, I've got the top handle as well, so it does record audio. Also with the FX3, as I say, it goes through the mini USB port.
Yeah.
So you've still got, even if you didn't have the top handle, you could plug into the audio jack part, an external microphone. With something like the ZV-E1 or a Sony A7 IV or something like that, you lose out on having an external microphone because you use the audio jack to put in the time code, because their firmware hasn't updated to the newest or whatever it is that they've done. Again, I'm acting like I'm all technical, mate. I haven't got a clue.
But that was my understanding of it, was that time code takes up your on-camera audio, but I didn't realize that certain cameras you could bypass that for the different, so you still get both, best of both.
So I have one of these. I mean, it's nothing special. I'm going to invest in some better shotgun mics for this season, on the top of my FX3, and that records nice, clean scratch audio. Sometimes I'll get an interview with it if I can't lav them up in quick enough or whatever. So it does the job, and yet the time code's still running. So
cameras, real quick. You've mentioned that. So your main camera was what did you say it was? Your main camera, the FX3? Did you say?
Yeah, I've got two FX3s. I've got one as an A cam, one as a B cam. I've got a Sony A7S III, and I've got a ZV-E1. The ZV-E1 really is like the D camera. I hook it onto my hip, and I can just get some reactions very, very quickly while I've got everything else on a tripod. I don't think you can get any better than the FX3, if I'm being totally honest. I'm very much a Sony advocate just for the dual base ISO when you're in log. Because we're filming a live event, often it's dark. You really need, in my opinion, that just you can work it in any environment. It works so well for me,
So the Z, what is it? The ZV-1, is it? The
ZV-E1, yeah.
So is that basically the camera that is like a compact A7S III? So it's got the same kind of innards as an A7S III?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I bought it because it runs, 50 frames per second, which is what I film in, and it does the dual base ISO. But yeah, I don't notice much difference to the A7S III, if I'm being totally honest. It doesn't have a viewfinder. It's meant for bloggers, if I'm being totally honest, but it gives me as good a quality as any of the other cameras. Don't ask me about how many pixels or this, that and the other, because I haven't got a clue. I'm not that way minded at all, but it looks good to me. It does the job. And if I'm in a dark environment, it still works to my advantage, And
are you running 50 frames a second on all your cameras all day long?
Yeah, big
because of the time code, you need to have it all synced up, right?
Yeah. Just for that one, because I can't change from 25 to 50 or whatever with the time code. I mean, unless someone wants to tell me that I can, and then my life becomes a lot easier. If I do want to do slow motion for the aisle shot or the confetti or whatever, or the first dance, I've got the option. I don't want a film that's full of slow motion. It's not me. I don't think it's entertaining in any ways, but there are moments that you're going to want that wow factor of a slow motion shot. And so I like the option. 50 frames does it for me. It's all good.
Yeah, same. I that's what I do. Like, even if I'm not using it, I like to know that I can, because I don't really know what the benefit is of being 25. Like, I know visually that 50 can look a bit soap opera, but once you put it in your editing software and it conforms it to 25, it looks fine anyway, right? So
it looks fine to me. It looks good. It just gives you that flexibility. I mean, the one thing is we've got bigger file sizes. I mean,
not much,
especially
with
the. Well, I mean, when you add it up over how much footage I take home after a wedding trying to capture these conversations, it's quite a lot. I'm sure it would be much more manageable at 25, but just for the fact that the slow motion in those moments make a moment, I'm not going to sacrifice it for the fact it's going to take me less, another hour to upload or whatever,
And lenses, what we're talking?
I'm a big zoom lens guy for the fact. Because I have to work so fast in this style. I have to be able to catch a moment then and there. To change from prime to prime because they're standing in a certain position won't work. I'll miss too many moments. So I've got the Tamron 35 to 150 2 to 2.8. I've got two of them on both the FX3s, and it just means that I can stand right back there, put it at 150 or 135, something like that, and focus in on a conversation, and hopefully that'll be some gold. If I'm there on a 35 or a 50, they know I'm there and they stop their conversation.
Yeah.
It's no good to me. Do you know what I mean? So I need to be right back. Saying that, if I want a nice 35 shot, then I've got it as well. You know, it works to my advantage for the fact that I'm not just getting beautiful pictures that happen to be moving. I'm trying to capture reality as it is, and therefore I need to move as quickly as possible. So changing lenses for me just isn't a possibility.
Yeah. How on earth are you handheld? It seems you. Yeah. How on earth are you keeping so stable, especially on those longer focal lengths?
I don't know, if I'm being honest.
You haven't breathed for the last year.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you go through all of my footage from a wedding, a lot of it's not stable. But it's quite heavy camera I've got, you know, with the Tamron 35 to 150 is really, really heavy. Plus I've got a monitor on there. I've got the top handle and everything like that. I suppose I'm able to ground myself with it. Occasionally I'll use a monopod. But a lot of the footage isn't stable, and I don't mind that. You know, as much as I want, you know, all my peers who do these amazing sort of like editorial, beautiful wedding films to really admire my work because it looks beautiful, the actual main core of the film isn't how beautiful it looks. It's the sentiment behind that shot or that conversation or whatever. So I'm happier to put in something that's slightly more scruffy if it means something to the story, you know?
Yeah. But because they're very almost documentary based, your films, if it is not 100% stable, it kind of makes sense because it's kind of conversational. It is kind of that almost documentary. It's almost like a documentary crew following the wedding around, right? Because whereas in my films, I'm trying to almost hide the fact the videographer was ever there. I'm even trying to hide the fact the photographer was ever there. With your films, it's very much they're talking to you, aren't they? They speak to you. It's very much where this wedding is being filmed. It's being pieced together in this way. But what I found really fascinating was how your camera style changes throughout the film, but very intentionally. So a lot throughout the film, your majority you're building up your films with kind of like mid shots, right? And which makes sense because a lot of the film is based around the people are speaking and they're talking about the couple, or the couple are speaking about each other. It makes sense to have these nice tight shots because it's intimate moments. But then as the film progresses, you see a little bit more movement taking place. We get some more sweeping shots for those romantic bits, and you can see it's very intentional with what you're doing. And it's kind of, is that something you've been trained to do? Like, how have you got to this point? There's so many questions, man. I'm losing my mind with what I need to ask you. But yeah, so your camera move, are you very intentional with that camera?
It's all by eye. I've watched a lot of telly. I've watched a lot of films in my life. I'm very obsessed when I was younger with films and everything. I did media at school, and I've done filming for a while. We can go into how I started later if you'd like. But, you know, I've done filming for a while, but it's all instinct.
Right.
And I guess soaking in education. I'm a big advocate of education and never just sort of settling for where you are. So I do constantly listen to podcasts, watch films, like the YouTube tutorials and everything like that, and just try to soak in as much as I can. I watch a lot of documentaries now. I'm doing this style. I watch a lot of reality TV. Yeah. And I like the way, even things like there's sort of similarities to where I want to go to things like Modern Family. Do you know what I mean? The American sitcom or The Office. Not that I want to be doing crash zooms or anything like that.
I've noticed a couple in your films, though. There's a couple of crash zooms.
Yeah, whether they're intentional or not, Roo, is another thing, mate. But you know, all I can say is, I can put it down to I've gone through a lot of education personally, just always looking out for education, but it is instinct. I'm just working off instinct, and it's going by eye of what looks good and what doesn't. And as I say, like, you're very complimentary about the films, and I thank you very much for that. But there are moments in some films or in a lot of the footage that is damn ugly, really, really ugly. Do you know what I mean? But that's just the nature of the beast. You know, I'm just trying to film what's there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But
But thank you for the compliments, my man.
yeah, it's right up my street. And I mean, and we've spoken before, and you've mentioned that you think your style is kind of Marmite. And I guess it probably is to people. I mean, for me, it's everything, because I love story. I like knowing people's stories. And when you watch your films, you hand the viewer their story on an absolute plate, pieced together absolutely beautifully. But what's it like? What is there been kind of like resistance to your style from people? How has it been putting it out there in the market? I mean, not much resistance with the amount you've done in the first 2 years.
Yeah. In terms of like things like the microphoning of the bride, I was always nervous to approach that. Barely any resistance at all. I'm telling you now, out of the 33 weddings, I think maybe 3 of them didn't want to do it, and I maybe convinced 1 of them, so maybe 2 didn't get microphones that the dress wouldn't allow. You know, the dress wouldn't allow for 3 or 4 others, but maybe 2 that were reluctant to wear a microphone or a dress. In terms of like interviews and all this sort of stuff, on the day, I just try to be myself and talk to people as much as possible, and they get to know you. And if you get the opportunity, you just happen to say to them, listen, I'm trying to make something that's really special for this couple, and you're obviously someone that's really, really, really important to them. I'd love to get you to just have a conversation with me. And if anything that's really, really, that will benefit their film, it will go in, and it will be so precious to them in the future to hear you on the biggest day of their life. And people are fine with it. That, you know, there's occasionally you get people that play coy and like, oh no, I couldn't possibly, and then straight into the interview, you know, like giving it some. I would say the most resistance I had at the beginning, and it wasn't necessarily resistance, it was questioning, was maybe from photographers, because I'm very gear heavy and I don't overtake the day. I don't really overtake portfolio sessions. It's not the portrait sessions. It's not the most important thing to me. But photographers were observing at the beginning, isn't there an easier way to do this? Isn't there an easier way to create these films? And I had one photographer say to me, and he said it very nicely. He said, nobody cares about audio. Like, he wasn't being horrible. It was just a comment he made, of which then I went into my story of why I feel it is, with personal reasons and grief and loss and everything like that within my own life. And they came round to it. I think now that I have a portfolio out, my Instagram has lots of examples of why there are benefits to the way I do it. I don't get any pushback at all. In fact, I want people that I've got people that want me to go further this year, that really want to embrace the style. And you don't want to promise them too much, because every wedding's like throwing 100 darts at the dartboard, and you've just got to hope that something hits bullseye, because you can't possibly film everything, and you may miss something. But it's a live event, you know, you just have to try your best to get what you can, you know?
Yeah. If you are still delivering your wedding films on a USB, or struggling to find a sleek, professional way to showcase your work, it's time to upgrade your delivery experience with VidFlow, the ultimate online gallery for wedding filmmakers. With VidFlow, your couples can watch their wedding films in stunning quality on any device, including their TV, making it easier than ever for them to relive their best day with family and friends. Plus, with custom branding, easy downloads and cloud backup, you get a premium, hassle-free delivery solution that makes you look as professional as your films deserve. I've been using VidFlow for the last year, and my couples have been amazed by its slick interface, especially on their TV. It's like having their very own Netflix of their wedding films. You only pay for what you need, and each of my 4K galleries only cost me about £15, and they stay online for 10 years, so it's a complete no-brainer. Join thousands of filmmakers who have already made the switch, and try VidFlow for free by using the link in the description. Take your film delivery to the next level. Now let's get back to the episode.
I think a lot of people will know who my inspiration is and favourite wedding filmmaker is.
Is it
and
just
I'll go into a reason why. Yeah, it's there. But let me go into a couple of honourable mentions first. Let's do it. I mean, there's, do you know Forever Curious?
Yes.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Like, they're amazing. They've been great mentors to me as well. They've been incredible. But their use of sound tells a story in itself, and that really inspires me. I think audio is far more important than visual. Yeah, and they're lovely people as well, and they've been great sort of mentors to me. But the audio side of it, there's so much to learn just by watching one of their films. Even if you shut your eyes, you can hear the story, right? The environment, all this sort of stuff. Another one that's come to my attention recently is Bernardi Films. They're American. He's just started introducing things like interviews into his films, which has elevated them to another level. But he creates his soundtracks himself.
Wow.
He plays all the instruments, and he creates a bespoke instrumental.
You're going to take that on as well, are you, mate?
No. I've got a decent singing voice, but I can, if you can catch me play 3 chords on the guitar in time or in tune, then you've had a good day. But it's just that his films are really engaging. There's a lot of story. The interviews have elevated it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that Justin Porter, it's a weird one, because I got into this idea of wanting to be a wedding filmmaker when I got married. There's a lot of things that went on around my wedding, like my mum's illness and everything, that made me go, if I do this, I want to do it that's extremely story orientated, people orientated. I don't care about the details particularly. I don't care about this, that and the other. And it was sort of a bit of serendipity, really, because I wasn't inspired when I went on the search for who would be my inspiration. I wasn't inspired by a lot of people as much as I admired the work. I just didn't resonate with it at all. And then suddenly I came across this guy on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram who's larger than life, but he's doing what I wanted to do before I'd even realised what I wanted to do. And so it was, as I say, it's serendipity, because I was able to sort of contact him and get mentorship and learn how to do something that really resonated with me very, very quickly. I haven't had to really experiment too much, because he's always got the answers. He's always about 6-7 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah, not that I want to incorporate the whole of his style. There are things that I'd like to sort of use my inspiration or instinct, and let that flow and not copy what he's doing. But if I need some help with some answers for a question on time code or interviews, there's a man that I go to, and his name is Justin Porter, and he's been brilliant for me.
Yeah, amazing. And isn't it
again
great?
long-winded answer, mate, sorry.
Yeah, that's what we want. We don't want these one-word answers, mate. It's the one where I ask people who their wedding filmmaker is, and they go, no one.
Oh, right, yeah.
We don't want that. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
got to say, I don't watch a lot of wedding films at all, because for one, I haven't had the time recently to sit down and watch any of the films, but I get a lot of imposter syndrome, and I would rather not put myself into that space. So unless it's something I specifically know that it will resonate with me, I try to just look at people's reels on Instagram and see what they're up to, rather than full films or full trailers,
I think that your work benefits from not looking at other wedding filmmakers, because you're taking very much the approach of TV as your influence and storytelling from that respect, rather than I just don't think it'd be helpful at all. I think you're better off taking your inspirations from elsewhere. And that is a buzzword we hear from everybody. They always say, I don't look at wedding filmmakers, I take my inspiration from elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up like, I don't know, you look at the films, you go, well, it looks like a wedding film, whereas yours is 100% influenced by everything except wedding films, like completely.
Absolutely. And I'd say the biggest advantage that I've had is that I'm not obsessed by watching wedding films. As I say, they don't resonate with me a lot of the times. What I think the biggest advantage I've had comes from life experience, whether it be sort of, the things I've gone through in my life, and the people that are no longer with me or struggling at the moment. And I realise what 20 years down the line, footage and photos will mean to me and to others. But also my past careers as like an actor or a barber or singer or whatever I've done in the past. There's all advantages of doing those careers that have led to sort of inspire the films, through conversation, through story, through the acting of scripts, through singing with the music and everything like that. I would rather just watch what I'm doing, let my inspiration take me, and ask people that I trust, like people like Forever Curious or Justin, their opinion, and take it with a pinch of salt. Go, yes, I agree with that. No, I don't agree with that, and find my own journey. I'm all up for mentorship sessions. I'd love to learn from people, but I don't want to carbon copy anyone. I don't ever want to just go, right, okay, that's what they're doing there, I better do that in the next film. I'll make sure I film something similar to that next time. doesn't work with what I'm trying to do.
That's such an interesting thing you say, because that's what I find about this job, is that it's not often, unless you're Aaron Kenny, it's not your first job. This is usually we've found a route to wedding filmmaking. We're not at school, at university, studying to then become wedding filmmakers. It just kind of happens. And usually there is a bit of a winding journey there. And then the filmmaker you becomes a patchwork of all those previous experiences. So let's go into that a little bit deeper. So what was your journey into filmmaking? What was the journey before?
So, I mean, I did media at school and I absolutely loved it. I was more on the editing side than anything else. Really enjoyed it, but ended up into a career of acting in musicals and TV for about 15 years. I did it for. Did a lot of West End shows and touring shows and things like that. And I just kept my hand in with the filming, whether it just be for fun or like a little bit of pocket money on the side for things like band promos, band music videos, things like that. It's nothing serious. I just kept my hand in it. Where I really shone was the lockdown quizzes. That I mean, it would take some beating for what I did. Oh, the production value was absolutely ridiculous because I was so bored. I mean, I ripped off every TV show going and made my own version of it and did animations and all this sort of stuff. But it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was an actor and a singer for a long time, and I guess that really inspired me with like how to learn how story and arcs go and everything like that. I've learned from a lot of directors and everything of how to express emotions, and utilize music through where I was a songwriter or a singer through the musicals I did, to really sort of squeeze everything out of the emotion of what's being told. I did. The funny thing is with the interviews is that people might find that they're a bit awkward to do, to sit someone down and talk to them and everything like that.
Because these are scattered throughout your films, aren't they? These piece to camera interviews where you interview members of the bridal party or bride and groom, and then that becomes large sections of your story.
They give context to what's happening. They give, they almost a narration as well beyond the ceremony and speeches. It just means that when they watch this back in years to come, they'll see the people they love actually talking, hearing their voices and giving their real emotion about the couple or the day or the past or whatever. But I learned how to interview people from people interviewing me through, I did a couple of like talent shows. And you could tell, I mean, maybe I was just very acute to it or very attuned to it or whatever, but they were trying to drive a narrative from my interview and I could see it happening, and it's very clever and very subtle the way they do it. But that's been a real advantage to go through that. So I can now sort of use those skills to translate into this. Your initial question, Roo, was like, how did you get into filmmaking? I've gone through like my entire life.
But I that's what I want to know. I want to know the journey, and then I want to know at each point what you've learned. So this is good. And it's funny that you say that, like with the interviewing thing, that is a skill, isn't it? Kind of like they've got a line they want to take you down. But they kind of know the background, but they want it in your words. So they've got a clever line of questioning which takes you down that route, and because they're thinking in their head, that's how I'm going to piece it together. And is that what you're on the wedding day? Are you doing the exact same thing?
I know the sort of, from talking to the couple before or what's been happening on the day, I know roughly what I need to make context of. And so I might try and nudge them down that road. And it will be very subtle, because I always say to them, I feel really weird. I don't mind, us two being filmmakers calling it interviews. I don't really like using that word with the couple or their friends and family. It's scary. It's a bit official, and it is literally just me having a conversation with them. It's just, I will try and nudge them or guide them down a certain route if I know that a certain moment or a part of their story needs a bit of context from someone. And yeah, as I say, the TV shows, the talent shows that I did, they weren't really talent shows, if I'm being totally honest. Yes, we sang on it and things like that. They're entertainment shows. They need a compelling story of each person on that show as much as they need their talent, because that's what keeps people interested and engaged and sympathize or, make a judgment on these contestants or whatever. So I learned a lot from those those moments. I came out of acting when I was 30 because I've got kids and touring and everything like that. And I just settled back into what was my ordinary day job, which is barbering, which also, as much as I disliked doing it, it was very much a filler job for when I was out of acting. It's taught me a lot of how to talk to people. You know, I have to chat to 20 people a day while cutting their hair about things that maybe you might not be feeling great on the day, but you've got to stiff up a lip and G them up, you know, you give them good customer service. And that translates really well into what we do. We always have to be the people that, you know, the hype people or someone that they can trust and have a conversation to. And it's a real advantage if you are, I would say, being a wedding filmmaker is not so, you don't have to be the best filmmaker. You don't have to be the best audio engineer, colorist, whatever. What would really shine to you as in this industry is if you're a people person.
Yeah. People
buy off people and they want to know that you're going to be a good fit for their day. You're going to fit in nicely and it's not going to be awkward. So barbering taught me that. And then we get to sort of like when I got married, of which was the inspiration of moving into this business. And without being too morbid or anything like that, we lost a few people before my wedding day. And my mum was diagnosed with stage 4 incurable cancer. And that's why we got married so quickly. I say quickly, we'd been engaged for 13 years. But I've been with my missus since I was 15 years old. But it was 13 years engagement, but we went, right, if we want to get married, we better do it now so we've got the people we love there. And I just knew that photos and videos would be so important on that day. You know, in the future to look back, regardless if it's my mum or not, there's going to be lots of people in that day where both of our families have come together. And I'm going to want to look back on them people in the future and see how happy they were on the biggest day of our lives and remember it fondly and be able to really almost feel and touch and hear and see. Do you know what I mean? All the emotions through that sort of stuff. And when I looked at getting a videographer, which was out of our budget, so I've got complete sympathy with people that, you know, always find that videographers are out of their budget. I was astounded at how much us lot charged. I was absolutely astounded, not knowing the full extent of how much work goes into it, the expertise behind it and everything like that. But my wife went to me, you're passionate about this. You're good with a camera. You're good with editing. This is something you should do. And that was it. I went and bought an A7S III the next week.
Really? Oh, you went in deep. You didn't mess about.
I went in deep.
Wow.
I didn't mess about. I didn't mess about. I went and bought it, and my best friend was getting married in Norway the week after, and I was his best man. And I said, "Can I bring my camera along and take some footage?" And I ended up doing a full wedding film. I did double duties that day. I was a best man and a videographer. And as much as it's not my shining light, not my shining moment, that film, it opened a door. It made me understand. I wasn't quite Molehill media by that point. But I dipped my toe into it. And yeah, so everything that's really what leads me up to this day now is my own wedding was a huge inspiration to do something different, to not do slow motion music videos or editorial type wedding films, to really lean into the people. Yeah. Because it was the people at my wedding that really mattered, you know, and full disclosure, my mum's still with us. She's still battling on. Yeah, still battling on. But it's still stage 4 incurable cancer. These moments are still going to mean the most to me. And I want to give everyone else that. I want to translate my passion into doing something good for other people. And if I happen to earn a good bit of money out of it as well, then fantastic. Yeah. That's a career. That's what you call a career that you love, isn't it? So,
but that is so obvious in your work that you care and you give a shit about these people. You absolutely do, because you're not just looking for aesthetics. You're going deeper than that, and you are finding out what is unique about this couple, what is special about their story, what do they want to remember, and then you're extracting those bits from the day through these interviews. You're going the extra level to get this information, whereas my style of filmmaking is very much in the mercy of what's said via speeches and ceremony, which I have no control over at all. As much control I can have is ask people if they'll do personal vows. That's as far as it goes. Whereas you found out what's important to this couple and making sure that that gets said on camera, which is amazing. And it can only be done with like empathy, I guess, with your style. And that's the only way you're going to get, because anyone could ask questions, but it's clearly the way you're doing it. And with that experience of having to get, motivated kind of questioning to get what you need out of it. Yeah. You're hitting the nail on the head, mate. It's so good.
Thanks, man.
Let's go into the shooting of it all. Okay. We've covered little bits of it, but I really want to dive even deeper into it. So breaking down the films, there's a lot of piece to camera interviews where you chat with bride and groom, you chat with members of the bridal party and just guests as well. So I don't know where to start really. So on the wedding day, how does it work for you? Because your shooting style is going to be very different to me, whereas I'm just looking for pretty bits of B-roll. You must be looking for more than that, because you want to capture conversations that are occurring to add that audio in afterwards, don't you? Because you've got the time code running. So what is your approach to a wedding day? I've rambled that question out because I don't know where to go. Do you know what I mean?
You're going to get a rambled answer back, my friend.
Good.
So prep's always a difficult one. It's why I feel a second shooter is always sort of really important, because I never want to tear myself away between two rooms because you're missing out on things. Now, I can't always get the conversations that I really want in prep, because I also don't want to ruin their vibe and go, can you turn the music off, please? Do you know what I mean? That's not my thing. I want them to have the day they wanted. So there's not always the opportunity for the conversations as much as it would be brilliant in the prep area. Very occasionally you might get a couple of nuggets, but that's where I sort of layer in the story of the interviews with the prep. Yeah. So I'm not looking for dissimilar to what you are in prep. I want to tell the story of the makeup and everything like that. I know I've heard on the podcast sometimes that, you maybe people don't want half their makeup being filmed, but to me, it's part of the day and part of the story. I want to tell it from start to finish, even if it is just the transformation of her looking like she's woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning and now look at her, this beautiful princess, is part of her story. Do you know what I mean? To me. And I will add context to that through the interviews of like asking them, how was she or he this morning? And they'll go, she was nervous. And that will cut then to shots of her, looking a little bit nervous or a little bit shaky or whatever. And it's the same with the groom. It really is just I keep my cameras running constantly. I go home with nearly 1 terabyte of footage every wedding. Wow. And that sounds, I know there's a lot of people listening to this going, that is overkill. It is overkill. But there are going to be moments within that 1 terabyte, if I didn't overshoot, that I would have missed. Yeah. And that moment might be the absolute gold of the wedding film. And it might be, I might have to really, really search for it and spend a long time in the editing process of going through each clip and listening and things like that. But it's worth it if you find that gold, Yeah. So it's the same with the prep. I will look for the pretty things, but I'll hold on conversations. I'll hold on faces and reactions and things like that. And I'll get my second to do the same with the groom if I can't make it or I feel like they can handle it. It's not dissimilar to you. I just don't press stop on my camera. I just hold very long takes.
And just keep that going. How are you stored? Like, is that going? Are you just changing memory cards constantly throughout the whole day? Is that how it works? Or are you going onto an external drive or?
No, I don't change cards at all the entire day. I'm scared to do that. I'm scared that I'll lose them or something like that. I've got, so it's dual cards, isn't it? In the FX3, and I've got 2 500 gigabyte cards in each FX3.
Right. Nice.
So one camera's never going to do more than 500 gigabytes as much as I'm overshooting. Yeah. My second will take the other 500 gigabyte cards and hopefully they'll never fill them up. But between ceremony and speeches and how long these things run and everything like that, I'm taking home between 800 gigabytes and a 1 terabyte. I mean, that Wedstock, the Lee and Ben's film, that was 2.5 terabytes because it was a 3-day wedding.
Wow.
I mean, try and sort that out. That was that was a task, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good grief. So the interviews, when do they happen in the day? How do you organise them? Because I feel like I'm running around like a blue-ass fly on a wedding day. So I don't know how on earth I'd find the time to be able to, because not only are you setting up these interviews, they look stunning. They're beautifully shot,
bless you,
great audio. So can you talk me through that whole process?
Well, I mean, with what you'd have seen with Ben and Lee, they do look particularly good, those interviews, because I did them the day before on the first day. And I was able to really take my time and everything. On the actual wedding day, it's snatch and grab. It really is snatch and grab. Stick a lav on them, try and frame it so you haven't got the lav in, and just ask them questions. Very occasionally, I don't love doing this, but I'm finding it's going to be more of a common thing. I won't take a break during the while they're eating. I will go and set up a nice area. I'll speak to the bride and groom going, if you want some interviews, I'm going to do them now, because people won't feel conscious, because I'm going to take them while everyone's eating and get them in a nice secluded area, and we can just have a conversation. And I'll just grab 2 or 3 people when I notice that they're not eating. I don't want to take them away from a hot meal. If it's between courses, bam, come with me, come and have a conversation, done. But ultimately, if I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, it is just getting it as and when you can. A bridesmaid in prep, just come with me for 2 seconds, have a little conversation. You know, father the bride while he's waiting outside the door, can I get something with him there? Can I get something with him after, so I can stitch it all together, the look, but with the interview either side, before and after. You know, it really is. What I would say is wedding videographers work bloody hard, but this particular style is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not patting myself on the back going, I work harder than anyone else. It's what I'm choosing to do. I'm choosing not to take a break in the day to make sure I don't miss any gold nuggets.
Yeah, because you were a one-man TV production crew on that wedding day. Because you are literally, not only are you there filming, but you have to do all the planning of the organising. You must be almost, script is not the right word to use, but I know from the work that you've got and the footage that you're putting together, you've definitely come up with ideas on here's an example. Tell me if I'm right or wrong on this one. So one of your longer films, you have to remind me on the bride and groom's name. I can't remember now. They're both rowers. They met
John and Gemma, yeah.
See, this is how good your storytelling is. I can't remember their name, but I know they met at a rowing club. That's because the story was so intricate in terms of the information about them. Yeah. So on that wedding day, the groom's doing his speech, and you cut to one of his friends in the audience, and he's crying, and then you cut to his an interview with him, talking about how he got upset during the speech and stuff. So did you get that reaction shot and think, right, I want to have an interview with him afterwards? Is that like intentional?
Yeah, I saw him. I mean, it was a very emotional speech that John gave, and it was a beautiful story between the two of them of his mental health and how she helped him through it, and really resonated with me. And I just saw this guy absolutely bawling his eyes out in the audience, and I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and I just had to get his side of the story with it, you know. So it just was, as soon as the speeches had finished, I knew I had a little bit of time before we took them out for golden hour. I went and got him and went, can I just have 5 minutes of your time? I saw you getting a little bit upset during the upset's the wrong word. I see you getting quite emotional during the speeches. Tell me about that. What does this mean? You must know their story. Tell me what this means to you, you know. And he just went on and on and on and on. And they can never say too much. Do you know what I mean? They can never say too much, because I can always cut it down. I can't add things in. And he just gave the most beautiful account of their story, and it just tied in nicely. It broke it away from it being about them, but being about how they've affected other people as well, which will also be really important to them as a couple, to know how they've affected the outside world, their friends and family and their relationships. So it's not always just concentrating on them. It's about finding out how other people feel and how they've affected their story as well.
Like I said, there's that empathy in your work, and it's quite clear that you're looking on a deeper level all the time of what's going to be important to layer up this story. And I can't imagine having that mental headspace. I don't know how you do it, and I'm just in awe, absolutely in awe. So when you're doing the interviews, did you say you're using lavs for that then, are you?
Yeah, I would like not to. If I had all the time in the world, I'd like to get a boom mic and set it up nicely and everything like that. The quickest, easiest way, stick a lav on and just go.
Yeah.
maybe I'll change that this year. I am thinking about booming, but it requires the things I've got in my head about where I want this to go for the future, for like 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. Those aspirations would require a team, a real production team. And I wonder if having a production team or more people on the job would take away from the personality or, you know, how much personal stuff I can get, and it becomes more of a formality because there are lots of people there. So I've got to weigh this up, but at the moment it's with a lav mic, and we'll see where that goes, because I want it to look a little bit. I know you're saying that some of the interviews look really nice. I'd like them to look better. You know, I'm always trying to move forward somewhere.
Wow, because that's the thing. Like, because on TV, in the TV like documentaries, the interview sections always are beautifully lit and well put together, and that's what you're bringing into your work. But I'm looking at it thinking, how is he achieving that on the wedding day? So are you not lighting them then? Because some of them, these look like really nicely lit. I know you said the one that was 3 days you did, right? That was, you could tell that was lit.
Yeah.
But are you generally lighting them or no?
Not necessarily if they're off the cuff interviews. And especially if they're outside, I won't necessarily light them. I'll just find a flat enough light. Hopefully there's a little bit of, a bit of a rim on the back of the head from the sunlight or something like that. If you might have seen some of the interviews that are actually the friends and family messages, and they are lit. They are, I've tried to make them look as nice as possible. If I had all the time in the world, yeah, absolutely. Let's get this going. Let's get the softbox up. Let's get the, fill light and everything like that. But it's just about finding what looks prettiest. Nice backgrounds that can look nice, really compressed. Get them nicely in focus and just get some flat light on them, Yeah. And in the future, as I say, I'm always working towards something. I'd like them to look better, which means lighting them, which means having a boom mic over top so you can get a slightly wider shot. But right now it's literally snatch and grab, just get what you can.
Oh man, cause that surprises me, because it does not look like snap and grab at all, not at all. So are you tripoded up for that then? And then will you have the camera on the tripod and then are you there chatting to them? Are you behind the camera doing that? Or are you kind of off to get more of a kind of conversation going?
So I'll be behind the camera, always checking what it's looking like. I never want a moment to not be able to use because I'm incompetent with focus or anything like that, which, believe me, happens.
I imagine it happens to all of us.
Yeah, but I'll just get them to, I'll try to chat to them on a really human level and just say, look at me, I'm slightly to the side of the camera, and just act like I'm your mate down the pub. How do you know the couple? How was they this morning? What was it like seeing her dad get really upset this morning? It was a beautiful moment, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And it just makes them, it's on a tripod, it's safe. I just have to make sure it looks good consistently, And
what's your tips for actually giving the questions to people? Because I've done this in a previous job where I've had to kind of interview people, but if you're then stuck behind staring at a camera, it kind of puts them off a little bit and you have to kind of interact with them. So how are you able to, I don't know, juggle the two really? You got any tips on that?
It literally is just having a conversation with someone. If I stood there with my phone in my hand with a list of questions, it becomes too official, or I've written down some on a scrappy bit of paper. It doesn't work. You've got to almost have in your head before you do it the sort of questions you'll ask, and there'll always be a hindsight moment where you go, I wish I'd asked them about that, especially when you're editing. Do you know what I mean? You've realised that they've had a conversation and you didn't ask them about it because you didn't know. But it is just talking to them as a human. That's the only advice I can give. You want them to feel as comfortable as possible, because our cameras don't lie. If they feel uncomfortable, you can't hide it. It's going to be there. So have your standard questions in your head, but try and think out the box as you go and just talk to them. You'll notice in my films, as much as, this is the difference between me and Justin. Justin doesn't like it in my films. He's given me some advice for me not to have my own voice in the films. That's fine. I'm happy for him to give them that advice. But sometimes, in order to make them feel comfortable, I need to speak to them more often than just letting them roll and roll and roll and roll. And I can't cut my voice out. And they don't always answer the question with the question. So I have to give some context of what they're saying, right? And so it's just let it flow. Talk to them as a human. Be really calm, confident. know what you're doing, and they'll be cool with it. If you look scared, shaky, and like you're really official, they're never going to open up to you. Be human.
With Justin's comments there, like I know what he's saying, but also it's a very different market, the American market, compared to the British, and we are not used to talking to camera. So I feel like whenever I've been filming Americans, they're born for it. They're great at speaking. They're great at public speaking. You ask them a question. You ask them a question as an interview. They will say the question out loud first and answer it like they're media trained. Us British people, we are not like that at all. So you have to adapt to it. But that's what I found really fascinating about your work as well. That you've managed to achieve this style with a British crowd. And I know, for example, like Lee from Ben and Lee, she's quite charismatic and out there.
Yeah, she's outgoing.
But I've seen you do it with other films where they're not quite as out there, so it's not like you're not relying on that. You've still managed to extract that story from a normal people like me, for example, because I'm not when I can't imagine I'd be very, with cameras put in front of me, I don't know if I'd be able to express myself, but you've managed to extract that from these grooms that are clearly quite nervous on the day. So
Gemma and John's a perfect example of it. The rowers, they booked me very early on. They didn't know what they were getting themselves in for, and neither did I at the time, because I was still evolving.
Love that.
So I mentioned to them about being microphones and everything like that, and they ummed and ahed it and everything, and they went along with it. And I kept capturing, I did get a little interview with Gemma. It was very short. She was fine with doing it, but you could tell she would, she wasn't that comfortable, but I made her as comfortable as possible. We had a laugh. We had a bit of a conversation, and there's some beautiful moments of the bride talking about the groom. And it's the same the other way around. Neither of them are natural in front of the camera. That's why you have to pretend the camera's not there and you just talk to them as a human. With them, I'll go back to the microphone because they're a great example. People have stopped doing this to me now because I've got the portfolio to show them why the advantage of being microphoned is. But I didn't necessarily, when I did their wedding, have them examples. So what I kept getting with them, I'm surprised how much sort of candid conversation I got with them, because there's some beautiful stuff in that film of her talking to her nan and her granny and all this sort of stuff. I'm surprised because all they did all day was go, a microphone by the way, to their bridal party. And now I've made the rule when I do my consultation is there's only one rule of Microphone Club. We don't talk about Microphone Club because I lost so many moments that day by the fact that they were talking about it and letting people know that there were microphones. And I would whip it off them than be intrusive and be an obstacle to normal conversation. So I've learned from that wedding that I need to let them know and give them examples of if you tell people that you're microphoned, you are possibly losing something really special that I might have captured if you hadn't have told them. Yeah. And you don't want to make anyone feel awkward. I'm never going to put anything in your film that doesn't make you look like a movie star or will mean something to you. So don't ever have any hesitation on what you say or what you do, because I'm only going to find the best bits for you. I haven't got time listening through multiple audio sources and cameras to waste my time on anything that isn't going to work in your film. So just be normal and have a great time with your friends, and I'll sieve out the gold for you. And that's worked really well since is having that conversation before with the couple.
I'll be worried. Do people get worried that they're going to get cancelled? What kind of things that can be said?
Don't get me wrong. There has to be an element of trust with them and me. Because if I did capture something, I could post it all over the internet. I could do this, that, and the other. There has to be an element of trust. And I try to build that with my couples. I'm really sort of hands-on before the wedding of like making sure that they know who I am and what I'm about and why I'm passionate about it and what I can offer them and what I need from them, what I suggest for them. Just making sure that they know I'm passionate about this and I'm not trying to make anyone look like a div. It's all for their benefit. With the tentacle syncs as well, track E's, what I've got, I remotely turn them off on from my phone. They come on and off all day because if I don't need it, I'm not wasting my time listening to it. So if I know I'm not in the vicinity as them, or they might be heading to the toilet or wherever, I don't need that. You know, so it goes on and off, and as soon as you tell them that, they're all good. It's all good.
Yeah. I guess quite interesting now, your portfolio's out there. There's no mistaking what your style is. So anyone that's even inquiring with you now has to have 100% buy-in to that style, and they kind of all understand how that's put together. But I imagine in those earlier days, well, I say early days, last year, when you're getting those first bookings in, it's a bit of the Wild West in terms of getting in. How did you get those first initial bookings?
Obviously, doing the wedding in Norway for my best friend gave me some footage, of which wasn't ever going to get me more weddings, but it gave me enough to sort of promote me to people that were doing styled shoots. So I did a hell of a lot of styled shoots, of which then that translated in some footage that I could take to wedding fairs.
Yeah.
And I know they're a bit controversial, wedding fairs. Not everyone loves them. But I do think for newbies, beginners, you should always go to a few. Because I think if you can't talk to a couple then and there about your business and articulate it really well, you've got some work to do about talking about your business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You've got to practice the patter and the lingo of how to sort of promote yourselves and articulate what you want to achieve with this couple's wedding. And I got a lot of bookings off of wedding fairs. I did some duff ones, but I did some really good ones as well. And that sort of snowballed there. I've got a lot of, I'm doing a couple sort of this year that I did their sister or brother last year, or their friends last year. And then it's moved into sort of ads now. I get a lot of bookings from meta ads, not boosted posts, but back end meta stuff. I don't know if it's unheard of. I think I can pat myself on the back that in my first year I did 33 weddings. I think that's quite good.
Amazing.
But it does help that I had a niche.
Yes.
If I'd have gone in with something that was fairly broad across the entire of our industry of doing, something editorial or slow motion music video, I probably wouldn't have done that many weddings. Because I was offering something fresh, it definitely helped to promote me a little bit more and excite people. That being said, I never did this style for a moneymaker. It's not, I never went in going, I'm going to do something different because that will stand me out and get me more bookings. It's just so happened that's the way it's gone.
Because this style is not like, if you want to make money, you do something that's quicker to put together. This takes time.
I would say if I worked out hour for hour how much I'm earning per hour for doing this style, I'm probably well out of pocket. And also with the equipment I've invested in. I listen to a lot of your podcasts, and most people are very lightweight these days, very nimble with their filmmaking. I am gear coming out my ears. And that's because this style does require a certain amount of that, but I'm also very anxious that one day I won't have what I need. So let's have it all. But yeah, hour for hour, I'm probably losing money on this style, but it doesn't matter to me because I really love doing it, and I'm passionate about it. So that's fine. That's fine. My wife and children have sacrificed a lot for me to do this because I never see them at the moment, but that's the essence and the infancy of a business that's just starting, right?
It's the hard work goes in now, and there's certain sacrifices to be made for a lot of benefit later on. But when you're building the business and laying those foundations, it's just, there's no other way around it other than hard work. Hi guys, just a quick break from the episode to tell you about some filmmaking products I've developed. The first are RooDogs. These are custom-made wind noise reducers designed for the Sony TX650 and 660 microphones. RooDogs not only help reduce wind noise and heavy breathing sounds, they also make the TXs look a little bit more like microphones and less like vapes. Here's a very unscientific demonstration of their effectiveness. For this test I held two TXs at my office fan at the same time, one with a RooDog on and one without. This is the recording without a RooDog. And this is the one with the RooDog. Without and with. The other product is the Yeti strap. This is a storage solution that can fit up to 6 Sony TXs and it has a Velcro backing so it can be attached to the inside of most camera bags. It helps keep all your TXs together and stops them getting scratched. All these products are available from my shop, roo-films.com/shop, or follow the link in the description of the podcast. Now back to the episode. So yes, Alex, let's get into the editing, which I can't even imagine where you start with it. I'm saying this about all of your work. I can't even imagine how you do it. So what is the first process in your editing for these films? I assume you're getting your time code sunk up first or something like that. Synced up.
Yeah,
Synced.
It's sulked up. Yeah, so I stick it all in individual bins, cam A, cam B, cam C, cam D, all that, and I put it all on the timeline, time coded. So it's all synced. And basically from that moment, I always work. My films tend to be chronological anyway, so I tend to work chronologically. So I don't cull, because I'm not looking for those pretty moments. I'm looking for the long parts. So if I'm doing prep, well, first of all, sorry, to go back, is I'll take out all the interviews, put them in their own timeline, and I'll listen through to all of them and see what the bits are that can link story and start the film off or whatever. And then it's really a case of I'll start with prep and I'll juggle it about. I'm really scatty. There is no sort of template, the way I work or anything like that. It's chucking things on, moving it around, seeing how it works, making the interviews, tie it all together. And then I'll repeat that process for different parts of the day. So then it'll move on to the ceremony, and I'll move to that part of the timeline. And it's things like I think you might have seen when you were judging Twitter. I submitted a film there where some of my favourite parts of the day are just what the groom says up the front.
Yeah.
And that's an important part for me to capture. Sometimes it's not possible because of time. Sometimes it's not an organ's playing too loud or something along these lines. But if I can capture what they're feeling at the front, that's really important for the bride to see. And sometimes it's really emotional. Sometimes it's really funny. I mean, I think the one that you saw for Tuya, I mean, it went through lots of different emotions of the groom up there. One of the best man asking how he is, and he went, "I'm all right, bit nervous, bit sweaty." And then the next moment, it's the best man going, "Have you done a nervous poo?" And you go like, I have to put stuff like that in, because it doesn't have to all be just serious and sentimental. So going back to the editing, I will sit and watch all the cameras with the relevant microphones live and see if there's anything that I want to rip out of that, and then tie it in with reaction shots and moments of people walking in. It very much is just a playground. I'm just moving things around, seeing how it fits. So that's why sometimes it can take me 3 days to do a wedding film, and sometimes it can take me 3 weeks, because it really depends how much there is to go through. Or if suddenly I go back to that footage and I go, "Oh, how did I miss that bit?" I'm going to have to put that back in then, and it tears the whole edit apart, and I've got to put it in. So there are more efficient ways to edit than I do, but it works all right for me. I'm just incredibly scatty, and just that it's a playground. It's a lot of fun. It can be frustrating, but it's just have a see what works, you know.
So your timeline starts off as basically just all these clips of footage with the embedded audio from the lavs all kind of tied in.
Yeah.
What about music? When does that get brought in? Are you building the audio bits first before music even comes onto the scene?
It sounds weird. I hear music in my head as I'm putting things together, especially with the trailers. The trailers take a long time as it is. They really hold me back on delivery times, actually, because sometimes I go so in depth with the trailers that it puts other things to the side. If I can see some of the footage, I can hear the sort of song I want. But I find the moments I want through the interviews, and I sort of see what kind of vibe that's giving. So I'll find something a bit upbeat sometimes for the beginning, because you want to start off on a high note. And then I might, using my musical knowledge of being a singer and a songwriter, be able to mould another song into that and hide it away, so it then goes into something else, and it seamlessly fades by cutting to beats or fading or whatever, same keys, same tempos, whatever it is that you do that. So again, it's all part of the playground. sometimes I'll start with the song, mix a few things around and go, this ain't working, rip that out.
Yeah.
Some people might be satisfied or just let that go. I can't. I just cannot. So it's a scatty process, editing, but it is a playground essentially, because I've got so much to work with.
So it's literally tweaking and just experimenting. Because one thing I found really interesting was sometimes you would let the music just drop away completely.
Yeah.
And you'd go to it's the natural audio and the couple or whatever they're speaking is front and center, and you stay on that and you stay on that and you stay on that, and then suddenly gradually you start to bring in the music track, a key point, and it's flawless in its execution. How on earth is that something from your kind of like musician kind of background? Is that something that's just kind of intuitive to you?
Yeah, I think ultimately I'm not trying to make a music video, so the music is there to only accentuate the moments that need it. It's not the be all and end all. If I can take away music and let the moment sing and breathe by itself, I'd rather do that, because the impact of when you bring that music back in is so much more than if it was playing the entire time. It adds to the layer of of how it plays with your emotions. Also, sometimes, like if they're saying their own vows or something like that, I don't really want music underneath it, because it's one thing more to distract away from what they're actually saying, you know? So yeah, I'm playing around with it, but I think where that comes from is potentially my acting background in musicals and all this sort of stuff, of knowing when them songs come in and what's underscored during the musical and what's not. Do you know what I mean? It's part of my instinct from doing a certain career for a certain amount of time. It's been a huge advantage, but it's just instinct. And I can't give you a huge answer of why. That's why I'd make no good as an educator, because I'd be like, instinct, you know, but it's just what it is.
But it's so like I say, flawless in its execution, because I'd never considered before dropping the music away, but the impact it has, because it was gradual. And I'm quite analytical when I watch wedding films. I love watching wedding films anyway. So I like to watch them, just watch them, enjoy it. But then I like to watch it the second time and thinking, why did I enjoy it? What was it about it? And I loved doing that with your work, because I started realizing all these little tricks that you were doing. And like that one when the music, it was gradual got taken away so perfectly, so that you almost felt like you were focused in on what they're saying, because the way it took away. And it wasn't like me there thinking, oh, the music's going. I wasn't really aware of it until I analysed it the second time. But then when it came back in, I was like, oof, yeah. And then you do. There's something which I thought I would always, if anyone said this was in a film, I'd be like, what? You have a lot of fade to blacks in your film. Like quite often there's transitions. And I remember if anyone told me that before, I go, this guy has a lot of fade to black in these films. I'd be like, I bet his films are awful. But they make sense. But you have a sound effect in there as well, don't you? Like a woof as it goes. Yeah. And it works, right? It works.
Like a bass drop or a whoosh or something like that. For me, it keeps the energy. Usually it's cutting between places where we're going. Sometimes it's just to emphasize the moment. You know, if someone said something, you need to let that moment breathe and sort of fade out of it visually as well as audio. Does it make sense? Technically, it's probably wrong, but it feels good to me, and that's all that I care about. So thank you for saying that.
But so that it's interesting that because clearly your filmmaking process, I keep bringing it up again, but it is very intuitive, and it's all kind of like you're basing it on feel. Because saying it out loud, right, every now it's going to cut to it, it's going to do a fade to black every so often throughout the film. You're like, oh no, from a technical point of view, that's awful. But you watch the films and it makes sense, and it's clearly you're doing it without, forget rule books, what feels right. But so am I right in saying that a lot of your learning has been like self-taught? You've been I know you did media early on at college, but for the filmmaking side of things,
the media when I was at school. You know, I'm 35 now. It was a long bloody time ago. Do you know what I mean? It's changed so much. I would just say I've always kept on top of it, just mucking around with editing. But I think all it is just if you learn the software inside and out. And I do know DaVinci for the bits that I need it for, there's so much more that I could probably go diving into it. I know it inside and out. It's just, as I say, a playground. And I don't watch a lot of wedding films. I only watch TV, movies, this, that, and the other. And very inspired by just people. Everything else is just instinct. And sometimes that really plays to my advantage. Obviously, you've seen my best films. You haven't seen my worst films. But I'm being honest. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it works to my advantage. Sometimes it doesn't. But I can always rewatch that film back in. The couple don't care. They just are appreciative that you've put something together that is for them and artistic, and you've caught really good moments. They don't care if it fades to black here, there, and everywhere. You know, because technically it's not right. I'm just doing what feels right to me in that moment, making that film. If I happen to watch it back 10 films down the line, go, that was a mistake, I know for next time. It will add to my intuition, you know?
Yeah. Because I would have put good money on the fact that your background was in TV. I thought this guy is quite clearly come from a TV production background, and he's just using his TV production experience to create wedding films.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
It's that level. It's that level of kind of right down to how it's pieced together in the edit. It's so wonderfully done, like with all the ticks and trips in the to make it feel like a high-end production. And another thing I noticed that was really great was outstanding multi-camera coverage, especially during the ceremonies. And the wedding film that I've seen, so Ben and Lee's, I keep banging on about this one, but it's the freshest one in my memory. Was that just yourself, or did you have a second shooter on that one?
I had a second shooter. I never get them to do anything creative during ceremony. I just want to know that shot is safe, and it's sort of the opposite to what I'm doing. So I know you always ask, like, what do you do during ceremonies, camera wise? And it really does depend on what the room's like. I don't think there's any set way of sort of saying it. You know, if a room is like horrendously backlit with a massive window, I'll probably be down the front facing, so the lights, catching them. I prefer to be up the back once they've come down the aisle, so I can get that foreground of people, in the front. But again, it's all just what's delivered to me on the day. And of all the bits that really stress me out, it's the ceremony of multicam stuff. It really does stress me. And I used to get really funny about, oh no, the photographer's going to be in my shot and all this sort of stuff. And for a portfolio piece, it would be nice if the photographer's not in the shot. But I look at the things that I'm inspired by, and if I say something like Married at First Sight, but without the drama, they've always got the photographer there because it's part of that wedding experience. Yeah. So I'm starting to be a bit more relaxed about that and going, is this a nicely composed shot that's well exposed and covering a lot of bases in the fact that if they move slightly, they'll still be, in focus and this, that, and the other. Obviously, it's a huge advantage to have a second videographer because it's a manned camera. Yeah. If not, it's me with the Monitor Plus app on my A-cam constantly pressing focus on the other camera.
Do you find that works okay, that Monitor Plus app?
Yeah, it works okay. It lags a bit, but you can generally see what's going on. Are they in shot? Are they in focus? What's the exposure like? And if they're total, what's the greatest is like for a groom reaction shot. If they're out of shot, you at least know it. You're not waiting till you get home and have a look. Yeah. I at least know I didn't get the groom shot. I can swivel round quickly now and get the quickest of seconds and then turn back to the bride. And it's the same with, if someone steps in front of my other camera, I know about it. So I know I've got to nail the A-cam.
How are you monitoring that? So I'm using your phone to monitor other angle. Where have you got that? Is that physically attached to your camera?
I'm like RoboCop, honestly. So my camera's got the top handle. I've got my monitor on it, and I just put another phone holder on that top handle. So I've got my monitor, and then underneath it is my phone. Nice. So I can see. So for instance, when the bride's coming down, I look up, I can see that she's in shot and she's in frame. I look down, he's in shot and he's in frame and he's in focus. So I can it's almost like having multicam right then and there. So yeah, it looks ridiculous, but it works for me, and it makes sure I get really anxious about these moments. So I will look silly and over the top to make sure that I get the best shots possible,
From looking at work, what seems quite important to you is getting the reverse shot of the vowels. So you always want the kind of head and shoulders of the person speaking. Yeah. How do you go about making sure you're getting that? Is that literally just a case of moving over, or have you set your B camera to get the reverse shot?
So the way I work it is, once I've got the aisle shot with my A cam, I'll put it on a tripod at the front or at the back, and I'll move it to the place where they've settled. And then once that one's in focus, I'll move over to the other one and move it to where they're going to be. And then I don't touch them. I just monitor them and make sure that they're still in shot. And I've got my little hip camera to get reactions and all this sort of stuff. And it just means that I've got them locked off on tripods in the place that they're going to do their vows and everything like that. The nightmare of my system is if in a church they sit down somewhere, like they sometimes do.
Yeah.
Got to then rearrange everything. But do the couple really want this bit where they're sitting on this? But I'm going to have to get it anyway, because if they do want it, then it's my fault that I didn't get it and all this sort of stuff. So it doesn't always work to my advantage, but I just make sure the main cameras are on a tripod, locked off in the positions they're going to do their vows.
Large chunks of your longer films, large chunks of it are back-to-back A-roll. For example, again, Ben and Lee's wedding, where it's the speeches, you've got the speeches playing out, but they're interplaying with each other. So it was kind of the bride talking about the relationship with the mum, and then the mum kind of counteracting with her relationship with her. So interplaying with each other. Yeah. But you weren't cutting to B-roll at this point. The B-roll you did to a certain point, but the B-roll was guest reactions. And I've never really seen that before play out like that in a feature film, but it works so wonderfully well. And is that something that you intend to do, to play out these large roles, bits of back-to-back A-roll, or did it just feel right for that particular wedding?
I don't like really to put like the couple shoot in between the speeches unless I absolutely have to. I would like it to be reaction shots, and just that reaction shot transitions us to someone else speaking, because that's part of the story. When I'm going from Lee speaking about her mum, I then want her to almost have the conversation back with her to sort of, respond to it. That's the beauty of cutting between these amazing speeches. Now, I lucked out with that wedding. Them speeches went on for near on an hour and a half. There was lots of content and they were all very charismatic. Sometimes it's just the best man going, place one hand on the other. This is the last time you'll have the upper hand. And you're going, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So then sometimes B-roll does need to come in just so I go, I've got something to play with. If I had my way, I would take the best man aside every time and go, this is your opportunity to, make people laugh, but please just say something really nice that you really mean about your best friend and him getting married. Yeah. And hopefully he'll say something nice back to you, and I'll cut between the two conversations.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's not necessarily, again, it's take a drink if I say the word instinct. We'll play that game, but it's instinct. To do it for that film, because it was so fantastic. It doesn't work out like that all the time, just because there isn't the content,
Yeah, but in the middle of your films, when it comes to ceremony, you quite often you are letting A-roll play out then, aren't you? With the vows and that kind of thing, and you're letting that play, and you even managed to do it in the one that I watched, which is in a church. And I know, like, church ceremonies, to make it look as seamless and kind of tight as you did with A-roll, you have to do quite a lot of creative editing for that. So it was quite interesting to see, rather than using the crutch of B-roll, you were adamant in letting the A-roll do the talking here. Is that ideally how you want people to be in the moment of the conversation that's happening right there and then?
Absolutely. Just like with the music dropping out, so they can really concentrate on that moment. I want that moment to play out and not be distracted by me doing a slow motion spin halfway through it of the bride.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I want, if they're going to say some vows and get married, let's have a look at them and concentrate on them getting married, you know, in that church. They've chosen it for a reason. That vicar happens to be quite nice to me, which doesn't always happen. So let's make the most of it, of putting my cameras where I need them. And it's the, as I say, same with the speeches. If they're saying something that has any value, let's listen to it and let's really appreciate it. There'll be plenty of time for some couple shots somewhere else in the film. Let's not interrupt the actual narrative with something that doesn't, to me, isn't appropriate for that moment, you know?
Yeah. And it was brilliant seeing how you'd come out the ceremony, for example, and then as they're coming out to do the confetti, and then it kind of cuts to interview sections. So it would be about with guests talking about how the ceremony was and things like that. And I think that is so cool to like, you just witness the ceremony and then you get to see this kind of insight from guests from there. And like, how precious would that be to the bride and groom?
I think it is it's everything. Do you know what I mean? Because we can all play a slow motion confetti shot and intercut it maybe with something else. But what if we intercut it with how people actually felt in that moment? People that mean the world to them. If I've managed to get a bridesmaid to go, oh my God, it was amazing. How incredible did she look walking down the aisle? I couldn't keep it together. And John cried, and he never cries. If I can put that in there, then it's a wasted opportunity not to. Do you know what I mean? That's just, it breaks it up from, I don't like dead silences in the films at all. You've probably noticed that, is that there's not many times where there's not some dialogue. I find it awkward to edit if I'm going from shot to shot to shot to shot, just with a bit of music underneath. I feel a bit uncomfortable with it, so I need to find something, and it's becoming more and more evident to me that I need to really juice these interviews as much as possible, squeeze every last bit out of them, get as many as possible, just so I have the options of just continuing on the narrative and never letting any dead air, you know, happen.
That's so. Do you know what? Until you said that, I hadn't noticed that. But so true. So if it isn't the audio from the A-roll, like speeches and ceremony, then it's any B-roll you're showing has the lav audio on there, doesn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah.
And if there's not that, then it's an interview audio. There's always everything's pushing the narrative the entire time.
Yeah.
And that must be why your films are so captivating, because everything you're showing is pushing that narrative along. So you don't want to miss a bit, because you think, oh, the story is taking you along on that tide.
I think that's what my ultimate aim is just to make something that has peaks and valleys, but is entertaining throughout, that you want to see the next bit. Not necessarily for anyone other than the couple, you know, because of course I want to impress my peers like yourself and everyone else, but ultimately this is going to them, and they're the ones that are going to watch it. I mean, you know, Roo, you might never watch that film again, and that's absolutely fine, but they're going to watch it again in 20 years time. I had a thought the other day, and this is me waffling about nonsense, but sometimes I watch that program, Who Do You Think You Are, or something like that, you know, where Danny Dyer found out he was related to a king. And I'm thinking, if they do something like that in 100, 200 years time, instead of looking like old crusty black and white photos that have like all crinkled and this stuff, they might pull out one of our wedding films.
Yeah.
And go, this is your great great uncle, and this is the day they got married, and everything like that. And I'm going, how precious can this be? This isn't just for the couple, this is for future generations. If you do it right, if you make it engaging, and if you tell a story, and it's not just pretty pictures stitched together, because you might as well just have another photographer. If you can tell a story, it's really precious, not just for the couple now, but from the future and potentially future generations, you know?
100%. And that is why video just captured my soul, because of that thought. The fact that we create something which they're going to cherish forever, and it gets more and more powerful with every passing day, with every passing year. And how many of our couples, like when you see, like, because you follow on Instagram or whatever, and you see they then have kids, and you're thinking their kids are going to get to see video footage of their mum and dad getting married. That is so, I would love to have that of my mum and dad, and to hear them speaking, and, you know, amazing. That's the power we have. So breaking down like your film, so teaser are the very short things that you do on Instagram, right? Is it teaser? Then you have trailer. Then you have your film.
No, the trailers are what are on Instagram. A teaser, really,
Right.
I don't think anyone in the history of Molehill Media has ever booked the first package, and that's by design, right? I think most of us are, the first package is to look the most unattractive. So I've never really done a teaser, so I can't really tell you what it is. I would assume it would be 1 minute of a bit of speech underneath and a few shots on top. What people really want is the trailer. I'm very proud of my trailers, as much as they are a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Quite embarrassing, because I I was messaging you, wasn't I? And I accidentally copied and pasted your video back to you because I'd clearly been sharing it with other people. Because I was like, check this out, man! Like, you gotta see this film; it's amazing. And and in that, it was still stuck in my copy and paste. So I sent it back to you and outed myself a little bit. But how? So, do you do the feature film first, and then is the trailer afterwards, or how does it work?
No, I mean, that would be the sensible thing to do, is do the full film first and then do the trailer. But the blessing and the curse of the trailer is, for one, I really enjoy doing it. But two, it really gives my couples trust in me.
Yeah.
It shows them, it demonstrates what I'm trying to do for them and how much effort I'm willing to put in. And they really, really love it. And so if I ever occasionally run over a deadline date or something like that, they know I'm working hard. They've seen the work I've put forward for them already. And ultimately, as much as I'm not all about the selling process, these trailers are what sell me.
Yeah.
Not the full films. No one's sitting through a full film to watch someone else's wedding. But these trailers are what are bringing couples to me, because they're high energy. They're slightly different. They're like rom-com trailers. And they really demonstrate who the couple are, and they want a piece of that cake. Do you know what I mean? They want a slice of that. So, but they do take time, and it would be I want to get these trailers out within 3 or 4 weeks of the wedding.
Yeah.
So I can't do the full film in that time. When you start doing weddings week on week on week on week on week, you know, I have to get the trailer out first. It would be more sensible to do the full film first.
So how would you put them together then? Like, because they, again, even the trailers are very heavy on the audio and the narrative.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I do the whole thing of where I pull out all the interviews. At the end of an evening of a wedding, a recent thing I've been doing is I send myself a voice note. And I go, this is what happened on the day. This interview was really good. They did this moment in the bride prep that would be really good. This, and this. I'll also talk to myself as well and go, you didn't do the ceremony well today, though, did you, mate? Do you know what I mean? Like, I give myself a fair deal on these WhatsApp messages. Yeah. But I know when I play that back that I go, right, okay, once I've got all the interviews out, I know I can remember from that voice note that this person was really good. This person was really good. We'll have a little bit of them. I know that in bride prep, they did a really fun thing, and I just go and cherry pick their moments. It's in no way in detail what the full film is, but I am just trying to find things that summarize the entire day. And the music's the main issue with the trailers, because with full films, you can sometimes get away with having the same music for the same films, because they're such long pieces of work. For these trailers, I don't personally feel comfortable everyone having the same sections of songs or anything like that. I want them to all be original pieces. And sometimes in a trailer, I mix together 3 different songs to give that up, down, up.
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes I'll use la 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 and I'll take out the verse of something and overplay it and over another song or something like that. So
that's an AI program, isn't it, that can extract vocals from tracks?
Vocals, yeah. So they're too much. As I say, they're a blessing and a curse, these trailers. They take far too much time, but I really enjoy doing them. The couples love them, and they are what sell me as a documentary type wedding videographer. So I'll always continue doing them, I think. Hopefully I'll find a better system than I've got now, though.
And how many days do you assign to creating that? Because what I'm thinking is, you're doing the amount of weddings you're doing, and I imagine there's going to be quite a few back-to-backs to be condensed within that kind of summer period. and you've got to get like these longer feature films out, but then you do the highlights first. So I bet you can spend. It could happen that you spend a lot of time doing everyone's highlights and not getting a chance to get onto the longer films. Is that how it works? Sometimes?
I think this podcast is all about being honest, and that is the situation I found this year. Is that the trailers stopped the full films moving, and therefore the backlog got later and later and later and later, and that's absolutely fine because my couples are incredible. I have good communication with them. They're very understanding, and they're happy with what they've got with so far. I also had the disadvantage this year that I only went full time in May, so I'd done about 5 or 6 weddings at the beginning of the year where I didn't actually have any time to do either because I was working full time. So I had already been put myself on the back foot, and that's not the case this year. So yeah, I try to assign 2 or 3 days for a trailer. 1 day for music, 1 day for finding all the bits I want to put into it, do a little bit of juggling around, see what's happening, and finalise on the 3rd day. Sometimes I can do it in 2, sometimes I do it in 5. It really depends on the inspiration from above at that time, you know. But yeah, as I say, they are a blessing and a curse, but are doing me good, I must say.
But the thing is as well, like, it's not similar to like the kind of reels that a lot of people get given as like a teaser or whatever. This is a very all-encompassing kind of, it's almost a highlight film. It's a bit shorter, but so receiving that, I reckon a lot of your couples are probably like, right, if this is all we get with sound, it's decent, because they're so cool.
Point. Yeah, to a point. I think it just buys me some time, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I think they get so happy with it. They can obviously see that a lot of work's gone into it, that it buys me some time with the full film, and they put complete trust in me. So if I send them out a message and say, can you send me some videos and photos of yourselves, of this person, this person, this person, some couples might go, oh God, you should film the day, why do you want all this and all this sort of stuff? But because they've seen the trailer, they're like, absolutely, what can we do, what more can we do for you to make this, you know? I just think they get really excited about what's yet to come, you know.
Yeah, and I always think my line is a couple of months is a very short amount of time to wait for something that's going to last for a lifetime, isn't it?
That's it. I mean, as I say, I have overdone some deadlines this year, and it is a message to them literally saying, I've underestimated my perfectionism, not just on your film, but the films that came before it. But this is a film that I can edit in a certain amount of time, and I could rush it if I wanted to, but it's going to last you a lifetime. Yeah. So I'd rather take the time, and it'd be a bit late, but you're going to have it for the rest of your life. Let's get it right. And people are fine with that. You know, that it's all good. Yes, they get excited and impatient. Never had a complaint, but obviously they'd like it tomorrow if they could. Like, we all want everything yesterday. Do you know what I mean?
But like in these films, there's no way they can be rushed. There's so much thought, so much time taken into the entire process. That editing then deserves that time as well. And yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Alex, I think coming to the end of the conversation now, mate. But there's one last question that I'd like to ask you, and that's, what were the biggest light bulb moments in your career so far when something suddenly made sense and helped you progress or find the path that you wanted to take?
Well, obviously, getting into this was the light bulb moment of my wedding and my mum's illness and losing people. That's the main light bulb moment. But if I'm going to think of something original that's not, then I suppose it would be, I give myself a really hard time over the edits sometimes. As much as I enjoy them, I'm a bully to myself, and I'm quite toxic sometimes. I'm sure all us creatives are like that in a certain extent. But I accidentally came across one of my first films not long ago, and I remember being so proud of it. So proud of it. I was like, this is it. I'm really, really proud of this. And when I watched it recently, I was like, that is awful. That is not good. But that was where I was then, right? Yeah. And that was the best I could give then. So I have to try and remind myself when I'm beating myself up through the edits that this is the best I can give now. Do you know what I mean? As long as I know, my light bulb moment is, as long as I know on that wedding day, I gave 100% and I didn't phone it in. It doesn't matter what I missed, what I didn't capture, because I gave it absolutely everything. And that means you're then presented with a colour palette that you have to paint with. and it might not be the colours that you wanted, but you paint with them and you make the best you can, the best picture out of it that you can. And that's what I'm trying to learn. I'm going to listen back to this podcast every time I need to hear that, because I know it, but sometimes I'm so hard on myself that I need to be reminded that as long as you put your all in, that's all you can do. And that's as good as you are at that moment. How good will I be in 3 years' time? Who knows? And I'll probably look back on Ben and Lee's film and go, that's a load of trash. Do you know what I mean? Who knows? But that's the best I could do then. And I have to paint with them colours and create that picture the best I possibly can. Does that make sense? That's sort of a weird metaphoric sort of thing, but it's a light bulb moment of seeing an old film that I wasn't pleased of. That was really pleased at the time. And actually, I've come a long way, you know?
It's a beautiful answer, mate, and it does give an insight into what's been obvious with our conversation here. You got into this line of work. Can we call it line of work? You know, can we call it a job? You got into this world,
not really,
because of what you wanted to give people, what you were worried that you were going to miss yourself, and your whole approach to the wedding day, as I keep saying, is empathy seems to be at the forefront of it. You are working for them. You're not necessarily working for you and your portfolio. Well, that happens, right? That's the byproduct. It's so clear that couple's story is so important for you and that you want to capture that. But then to have that kind of empathy when you're making those films, you're then naturally going to be critical on yourself, because you're not making it for yourself, you're making it for them, and you're always going to maybe second guess yourself because of what you're creating. You want it to last forever. But I can say, mate, like, the work that you're creating is phenomenal, and the kind of person you are, you're always going to be doing your best. You're always going to be like leveling up, and your film's outstanding, mate. So long may it continue. I can't wait to. I can't believe you're so early in your journey. I really can't, because who knows what's going to happen for you, man. It's only going to be good things though. So thank you so much for your time today, mate.
Oh, mate, it's my pleasure. I've enjoyed it, but I've also enjoyed listening to it. So without blowing smoke too much, keep doing the podcast and keep going with it, man, because it's really helping a lot of us.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you so much. But thank you for your time, and I can't wait to just watch the rest of your journey, mate. Take care, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. To find out more about what we have to offer in terms of our conference and also our educational resources, visit coda-conference.com.